The Deep Space Monitoring Station orbited Earth like a silent guardian. Inside its metal halls, dozens of technicians watched their screens day and night. They listened to the cosmos, searching for any signal that might come from the stars. Lieutenant Ashley Miller rubbed her tired eyes. She had been on duty for 6 hours, and nothing interesting had happened. The same static, the same empty frequencies. She reached for her coffee cup when suddenly her screen lit up. "Commander Davis, you need to see this," she called out. Commander John Davis walked over from his command post. He was a tall man with gray hair and sharp blue eyes. 20 years in the Space Command had taught him to stay calm, but something in Miller's voice caught his attention. "What do we have, Lieutenant?" "An alien transmission, sir. It's coming from Sector 47B. Miller's fingers danced across her keyboard. "The signal is weak, but it's definitely artificial." Davis leaned over her shoulder. The screen showed wave patterns he had never seen before. "Can you clean it up?" "Working on it now." Miller adjusted several controls. Slowly, the static cleared. Words began to form on the translation screen. "Emergency. Help. Under attack. Please respond." The command center fell silent. Every technician turned to look at the main screen. This was the first distress call humanity had ever received from another species. "Get me everything on Sector 47B, Davis ordered. "I want to know who's sending this and what's happening out there." Within minutes, data filled the screens. The signal came from a star system about 40 light-years away. The aliens calling themselves the Valeri had made peaceful contact with Earth 10 years ago. They were traders and explorers, not warriors. "Sir, I'm getting more of the transmission," Miller said. Her face had gone pale. "They say they're under attack by the Kraxan Empire." Davis felt his stomach tighten. The Kraxan were known throughout the galaxy as slavers and conquerors. They had avoided human space so far, but everyone knew about their cruelty. "How bad is it?" 3 colony worlds already taken. Their home planet is under siege." Miller's voice shook slightly. "They're asking anyone who can hear them to help." Captain Sam Rodriguez entered the command center. She was the highest-ranking officer on the station. Her dark eyes took in the situation quickly. "Report, Commander." Davis briefed her on the distress call. Rodriguez listened without interrupting, her face growing more serious with each word. "The Valeri helped us during first contact," she said when he finished. "They taught us about hyperspace travel. They shared their star maps." "Yes, Mom. Without them, we'd still be stuck in our own solar system." Rodriguez walked to the main viewing screen. Earth hung below them, blue and white against the black of space. For decades, humanity had stayed neutral in alien conflicts. They had focused on exploration and trade, avoiding the wars that raged between other species. "Lieutenant Miller, can you establish two-way communication?" "I can try, Captain." Miller worked her controls. After several tense minutes, she nodded. "Channel open." Rodriguez stepped forward. "This is Captain Rodriguez of Earth Space Command. We have received your distress signal. Please provide your current status." The response came quickly. The translator struggled with the alien language, but the meaning was clear. The Valeri were desperate. Half their fleet was destroyed. Millions of their people were already in chains. "They're asking if we'll help," Miller said quietly. The command center waited. Everyone knew this moment would change everything. Earth had the ships. They had the weapons, but using them would end their neutrality forever. Rodriguez turned to face her crew. "Ladies and gentlemen, the Valeri stood by us when we were newcomers to the galaxy. They helped us when we needed it most." She paused. "I believe it's time we returned the favor." She looked at Davis. "Commander, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we need the fleet. All of it." Davis nodded and turned to his console. As his fingers moved across the controls, he wondered if the galaxy was ready to learn what humans could do when they decided to fight. The Deathworlders were about to answer the call. The Earth Defense Council met in an underground bunker deep beneath Geneva. The room was carved from solid rock, its walls lined with screens showing maps of human space. 50 of Earth's most powerful leaders sat around a massive oval table. Admiral Grace Johnson stood at the head of the table. She was 60 years old, with silver hair and eyes like steel. Behind her, a hologram showed the Velari system under attack. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a decision to make," she began. "The Velari have asked for our help. The question is, do we answer?" Senator Lisa Brown from North America spoke first. "Admiral, we've stayed out of alien wars for good reason. Getting involved now could paint a target on Earth." "The senator has a point," said General Chenwei from the Asian Alliance. "We have 20 billion people to protect. Is saving the Velari worth risking human lives?" Dr. Paul Martin raised his hand. He was the chief scientist for the Alien Relations Department. "May I remind everyone what the Velari did for us? 20 years ago, when our first colony ship got lost in deep space, they rescued our people. They shared their technology freely." "That was different," Brown argued. "That was a rescue mission, not a war." The debate grew heated. Some leaders wanted to send aid. Others feared the consequences. The Kraxan Empire was powerful, with hundreds of warships and a reputation for brutality. Intelligence officer Jake Williams connected to the meeting from his office on Luna Base. His image appeared on one of the screens. "I have new information," he said. "Our spies report the Kraxan have already captured 3 Velari colonies. That's about 50 million beings enslaved." The room fell quiet. Everyone knew what the Kraxan did to their slaves. The stories were horrifying. "There's more," Williams continued. "The Kraxan are using the Velari as test subjects. They're experimenting on them to find weaknesses in other peaceful species." Prime Minister Amara Okonkwo from the African Federation stood up. "If we let this happen, we're no better than the Kraxan. The Velari trusted us. They called us friends." "Pretty words won't stop Kraxan battleships," Senator Brown shot back. "We need to think about Earth first." Admiral Johnson had heard enough. She pressed a button, and new images filled the screens. "These are our current military assets," she said. 50 modern warships, 300 fighters, 10,000 trained Marines. The leaders studied the numbers. Earth's fleet was smaller than the Kraxan Armada, but human ships were advanced. They had better shields, faster engines, and weapons designed by a species that had survived on a death world. "Our analysis shows we can win," Johnson continued. "The Kraxan have never fought humans. They don't know what we're capable of." Chancellor Erich Müller from the European Union leaned forward. "What about our colonies? If we send the fleet away, they'll be defenseless." "We'll keep the home fleet here," Johnson replied. Only the Third Fleet would go to Velari space. The debate continued for 3 more hours. Leaders argued about costs, risks, and moral obligations. Some worried about economic impacts. Others feared starting a wider war. Finally, President Sarah Kim from the Pacific Alliance stood. She rarely spoke in council meetings, but when she did, people listened. "I keep thinking about my grandfather," she said. "He survived World War III by hiding in the ruins of Seoul. He used to tell me that the only thing evil needs to win is for good people to do nothing." She looked around the room. "The Velari are dying. Children are being enslaved. If we have the power to stop this and choose not to, what does that make us?" The room was silent. Then, slowly, hands began to rise in favor of intervention. One by one, the leaders voted. When the count was finished, 38 had voted yes, 12 had voted no. Admiral Johnson nodded. "The decision is made. I'll mobilize the Third Fleet immediately." As the leaders filed out, Senator Brown stopped beside Johnson. "I hope you're right about this, Admiral. I hope we're not making a terrible mistake." Johnson looked at the senator. "Sometimes, doing nothing is the biggest mistake of all." Within an hour, orders flashed across human space. The Third Fleet would go to war. For the first time in history, Humanity would fight to save another species. Earth's orbital shipyards stretched across the sky like a metal constellation. Hundreds of dock workers, engineers, and soldiers moved through the zero-gravity corridors. The Third Fleet was waking up. Captain Emma Clark floated through the main deck of the dreadnought Liberty. The ship was massive, nearly a kilometer long, with weapons that could crack asteroids. She had commanded the Liberty for 5 years, but this would be her first real combat mission. Status report, she called to her bridge crew. Main engines are online, reported her navigation officer. Weapons systems checking out green. We'll be ready to jump in 36 hours. Clark nodded. All around them, other ships were powering up. Destroyers, cruisers, carriers, and support vessels. The largest human fleet ever assembled for a military operation. Down in the engineering section, Frank Torres was covered in grease and sweat. The chief engineer had been working for 20 hours straight. His team crawled through the hyperdrive systems, checking every component. These drives haven't been pushed to full power in years. Torres muttered to his assistant. We need them perfect. One failure during a jump, and we lose the whole ship. In the fighter bays, pilot Amy White ran her hand along her ship's hull. The sleek combat fighter was her baby. She'd flown hundreds of training missions, but this would be different. This time, the enemy would shoot back. You ready for this? Asked her wing commander, Alan Cooper. White nodded. Born ready, sir. Those Kraxan pilots won't know what hit them. Across the fleet, similar scenes played out. Supply officer Karen Adams supervised the loading of food, water, and ammunition. 6 months of supplies for 50,000 personnel. The logistics alone were staggering. Double-check those missile counts, she ordered her team. We won't get resupply out there. Every round counts. The Marine barracks buzzed with activity. Colonel Dan Harris watched his troops gear up. Power armor gleamed under the lights. Weapons were cleaned and checked. These men and women were Earth's finest warriors. Listen up, Harris called out. We're going to liberate Velari colonies. That means urban combat, possibly against fortified positions. The Kraxan won't surrender easily. On the orbital command station, Admiral Johnson monitored the preparations. Dozens of screens showed different ships, different crews. The complexity of moving such a force was enormous. Ambassador Chen Yu from the Diplomatic Corps approached her. Admiral, the alien observers want to witness our departure. Several species have requested permission to send representatives. Johnson considered this. Grant permission. Let them see what happens when humanity goes to war. In the military academies on Earth, classes were canceled. Cadets crowded around screens, watching their heroes prepare for battle. This was history in the making. Back on the Liberty, Captain Clark received a message from her daughter on Earth. Be careful, Mom. Come home safe. Clark smiled sadly. She couldn't promise that. War made no guarantees. The news media went into overdrive. Reporters interviewed families of crew members. Military analysts explained the mission. Protesters gathered in some cities, calling for peace. Supporters held rallies, waving Earth flags. In the shipyards, final preparations continued. Fuel tanks were topped off. Navigation computers were programmed with jump coordinates. Medical bays stocked with supplies. Everything had to be perfect. Engineer Torres finally emerged from the Liberty's engine room. His team had checked every system twice. We're good to go, Captain. She'll hold together. The alien ambassadors watched from the observation deck. The Altarian representative turned to his colleague. I've never seen such organization, such purpose. The humans are Deathworlders, replied the Centauri ambassador. They evolved on a planet that tried to kill them every day. This is what they do best. As the 48-hour deadline approached, the fleet formed up. 50 warships arranged in perfect formation. The pride of Earth's military might, ready to sail across the stars. Admiral Johnson's voice echoed across all channels. Third Fleet, this is command. Final systems check in progress. Prepare for departure in 12 hours. The greatest rescue mission in human history was about to begin. The Deathworlders were coming. Space bent and twisted as 50 human warships emerged from hyperspace. The journey had taken 2 weeks, pushing the fleet's drives to their limits. Now they hung in the darkness above Velari Prime, a beautiful blue-green world under siege. "Jump complete," announced the navigation officer on the Liberty. All ships accounted for. Captain Clark studied her tactical display. The Velari homeworld was surrounded by debris. Broken ships, destroyed satellites, and the remains of defense platforms floated like a graveyard in space. "Incoming transmission," reported Communications Officer Betty Chen. "It's from the planet's surface." A hologram appeared on the main screen. The alien was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. This was Elder Zixtal, leader of the Velari people. "Humans," the elder spoke through the translator. "You came. We had almost lost hope." Ambassador Maria Garcia stepped forward. She had prepared for this moment during the entire journey. "Elder Zixtal, I am Ambassador Garcia of Earth. We received your distress call. How can we help?" The elder's expression showed what looked like relief. "The Kraxan attacked without warning 3 weeks ago. Our defense forces were overwhelmed. They have taken 3 of our colony worlds and now threaten our home." "How many ships do they have?" asked Admiral Johnson from the command ship Washington. "Over 200 vessels orbit our outer planets. They demand our complete surrender." The human officers exchanged glances. 200 ships against 50. The odds were not good. Captain Bob Taylor commanded the reconnaissance cruiser Eagle Eye. "Admiral, request permission to scout enemy positions." "Granted. Be careful, Captain." Taylor's ship engaged its stealth systems and moved toward the outer system. His sensors officer, Lieutenant Pete Jones, monitored the readings. "Contact. Multiple Kraxan vessels near the 4th planet. They're not even trying to hide." The reconnaissance data flowed back to the fleet. Lieutenant Tony Martinez on the Washington analyzed the enemy formations. "Their ships are larger than ours, but the technology seems inferior. Energy signatures suggest older-style shields and weapons." Elder Zixtal continued his briefing. "The Kraxan consider us weak. We evolved on this peaceful world. We have no natural weapons, no armor. They call us prey species." "What about your people on the captured colonies?" asked Ambassador Garcia. The elder's head dropped. "Enslaved. The Kraxan used them for labor and—" He paused. "Worse things. We have received some communications. The conditions are terrible." Captain Clark spoke up. "Elder, do you have any ships left? Any military assets at all?" "Only civilian vessels and basic defense satellites. We are not a warrior people. We have always solved conflicts through diplomacy. Until now," Admiral Johnson said grimly. The reconnaissance team sent back more data. The Kraxan ships were arranged in loose formations, clearly not expecting any serious resistance. Their technology was indeed less advanced than human systems. "Look at their engine signatures," noted Commander Ruth Baker, the fleet's science officer. "Inefficient fusion drives. Our ships are at least 30% faster. Their shields are single-layer," added Weapons Officer Carl Thompson. "Our multi-phase torpedoes should punch right through." The Velari elder watched the humans work. "I must tell you something. The Kraxan have never faced your species in battle. They know nothing about humans except that you come from a dangerous world." Maria Garcia smiled slightly. "They're about to learn." Elder Zixtal. Admiral Johnson said, "We need information about your resistance networks on the occupied colonies. Any forces still fighting?" "Yes. Small groups hiding in the ruins. They have limited weapons but good intelligence on Kraxan positions." Communications Officer Helen Young from the Destroyer Ranger established encrypted channels. Soon, reports came in from Velari resistance cells across the system. "Admiral," Young reported, "the resistance says the Kraxan are overconfident. They've reduced patrols on the occupied worlds. They think the fight is already won." Johnson studied the tactical map. The enemy's arrogance would be their downfall. She began to see how 50 human ships could defeat 200 Kraxan vessels. "Thank you, Elder. Tell your people that help has arrived." The Deathworlders stand with the Veleri. The Elder's large eyes widened. "Deathworlders? Yes. Perhaps that is exactly what we need." The command ship Washington became a hive of activity. Officers moved between holographic displays, plotting attack vectors and supply routes. Admiral Johnson stood at the center, orchestrating the planning like a master conductor. "Bring up the system map," she ordered. A three-dimensional image of Veleri space appeared, showing planets, moons, and enemy positions. Colonel Steve Phillips, the fleet's strategic planner, pointed to the occupied colonies. "The Kraxan have spread their forces thin. They're holding 3 worlds with garrison fleets. Their main force stays near the gas giant." "Classic occupation pattern," noted Captain Bill Turner. "His destroyer squadron would play a key role in the coming battle. They think they've already won." Tactical Officer Nancy Lee discovered something interesting in the enemy data. "Admiral, look at this. The Kraxan shields have a frequency modulation. If we tune our weapons to match, we can increase penetration by 40%. "Excellent work, Lieutenant. Share that with all ship captains." The Veleri had provided detailed intelligence about the occupied colonies. Resistance leader Captain joined the meeting via secure channel. His group operated on Theta 7, one of the captured worlds. "The Kraxan keep prisoners in camps near their landing zones," Captain reported. "Thousands of our people work in their mines. Guards are minimal. They think we're too weak to resist." Communications Officer Helen Young established contact with other resistance cells. Each provided valuable information about enemy routines, patrol schedules, and weak points. "The Kraxan are creatures of habit," observed intelligence analyst Joey Murphy. "They run the same patrols at the same times every day. They're complacent." Admiral Johnson studied the data. A plan was forming in her mind. "We'll hit them everywhere at once." "Colonel Phillips, I want a 3-phase operation." Phillips nodded and began sketching on the tactical display. Phase 1. Simultaneous strikes on all 3 occupied colonies. Phase 2. Destroy their supply lines. Phase 3. Engage their main fleet. Dawn came to Veleri space in a storm of fire and steel. Across 3 worlds and a dozen battlefields, human forces struck with coordinated precision. The liberation had begun. Squadron leader Chris Bailey led the first fighter wave against Kraxan positions on Theta 7. His 12 fighters screamed through the atmosphere, weapons hot. Below them, the enemy garrison scrambled to respond. "Target the communication towers first," Bailey ordered. "Cut them off from their fleet." His fighters dove like hawks. Missiles streaked toward Kraxan installations. Explosions bloomed across the enemy base. The Kraxan fighters that managed to launch flew in predictable patterns, easy targets for the agile human pilots. On the ground, Sergeant Joe Anderson's Marine platoon dropped from orbit in armored pods. They slammed into the dirt near a Veleri prison camp. Through his helmet visor, Anderson could see the wire fences and guard towers. "Move fast, hit hard," he commanded. "Those guards won't expect us." The Marines advanced with practiced efficiency. The Kraxan guards, used to controlling helpless prisoners, panicked when faced with human soldiers. Plasma bolts and rail gun rams tore through their positions. In space above the colony, Captain Sandra King's cruiser group engaged the Kraxan garrison fleet. The enemy ships were larger but slower. King used her speed advantage ruthlessly. "Attack pattern Delta," she ordered. "Stay mobile. Don't let them lock on." Her cruisers danced between the enemy vessels, launching torpedoes at weak points. The modified weapons, tuned to the Kraxan shield frequency, punched through their defenses. One by one, enemy ships began to burn. Meanwhile, near the gas giant, Captain Bill Turner's destroyers found the Kraxan supply convoys. The cargo ships were barely defended, relying on the protection of the main fleet. "Like shooting fish in a barrel," Turner muttered. His ships opened fire, turning supply vessels into expanding clouds of debris. The Kraxan response was chaos. Their commanders, spread across the system, couldn't coordinate. Every time they tried to respond to one attack, another hit somewhere else. On Theta 7, Anderson's Marines breached the prison camp gates. Inside, thousands of Velari prisoners stared in shock as their cages were opened. Many were too weak to walk. "Get the medical teams in here," Anderson called. "These people need help." The scene repeated on the other occupied worlds. Marine units struck simultaneously, overwhelming the scattered Kraxan garrisons. Major Rick Green coordinated the ground operations from orbit. All units reporting success. Green announced, "Prison camps are liberated. Minimal casualties." In space, the battle intensified. The Kraxan admiral finally gathered his main fleet and moved to engage the humans. Over 100 warships advanced on Admiral Johnson's battle group. "Here they come," Johnson said calmly. "All ships, execute Battle Plan Bravo." The human fleet didn't retreat. Instead, they accelerated toward the enemy, using their superior speed to control the engagement range. Fighter pilot Diana Cruz led her squadron against the Kraxan fighter screen. "These guys fly like they're on rails," she laughed, destroying her third enemy fighter. No creativity at all. The main fleets clashed near Velari 5's moons. Energy beams crossed the void. Missiles traced deadly paths between ships. The Liberty, under Captain Emma Clark, pushed straight for the Kraxan flagship. "All weapons, concentrated fire," Clark ordered. "Target their bridge section." The dreadnought's massive guns spoke. Shields flared and died. The Kraxan flagship shuddered under the assault. Around it, the enemy fleet began to waver. On the ground, liberated Velari joined the fight. Given weapons by the Marines, they turned on their former captors with surprising ferocity. The peaceful species had found their anger. Engineer Colin Shaw on the Liberty rerouted power to weapons. "Captain, I can give you 20% more firepower, but it'll strain the systems." "Do it," Clark replied. "We end this now." The increased firepower proved decisive. The Kraxan flagship's shields collapsed entirely. Secondary explosions rippled along its hull. Escape pods began launching as the crew abandoned ship. Seeing their command vessel dying, the Kraxan fleet broke. Ships turned to flee, only to find human destroyers blocking their escape routes. The trap was complete. After 6 hours of combat, Admiral Johnson surveyed the battlefield. Burning Kraxan ships drifted everywhere. The occupied colonies were free. The enemy fleet was shattered. "All units, this is Fleet Command," she broadcast. "Well done. The Deathworlders have won." The remnants of the Kraxan fleet regrouped near Velari 5, the system's largest gas giant. Their admiral, a scared veteran named Voxcar, refused to accept defeat. He still commanded 60 warships, and his pride burned hotter than the plasma fires consuming his flagship. All remaining vessels formed battle line. Voxcar growled through the fleet communication system. "We will not run from these primitives." The Kraxan ships arranged themselves in a defensive wall. Their crews were shaken but not broken. They had conquered dozens of species. They would not surrender to these newcomers. Admiral Johnson watched the enemy movements from the Washington. "They're making a last stand. All ships, prepare for final engagement." The human fleet had taken some damage in the previous battles. 3 destroyers showed hull breaches. Several fighters were lost. But morale was high. Victory was within reach. Captain Mark Foster commanded the battleship Texas. His ship had weathered the earlier fighting well. Now it would lead the final assault. "Gunners, target their lead vessels. We'll punch a hole right through their line." The 2 fleets closed distance. Space between them filled with deadly energy. The Kraxan fought desperately, their weapons firing without pause. But desperation made them sloppy. Fighter pilot Diana Cruz noticed the pattern first. "They're shooting wild. No fire discipline." She rolled her fighter through a storm of enemy beams, untouched, On the Liberty, Captain Emma Clark watched her tactical display. The Kraxan flagship was trying to ram the Texas, a desperate move, but potentially effective. "Intercept course," she ordered. "We'll stop them before they reach Foster." The massive dreadnought accelerated, placing itself between the enemy flagship and the Texas. Engineer Colin Shaw pushed the engines beyond safe limits. "Hull stress is increasing," Shaw reported, "but she'll hold." The Kraxan flagship bore down on them. At the last moment, Clark ordered full reverse thrust. The Liberty's powerful engines screamed. The two ships passed within meters, trading point-blank fire. "Direct hits on their bridge," reported Weapons Officer Nancy Chen. "Their command structure is gone." Without leadership, the Kraxan fleet began to fracture. Some ships continued fighting. Others powered down weapons. A few tried to flee into hyperspace. Marine transports moved toward the surrendering vessels. Colonel Dan Harris prepared his troops for boarding operations. "Remember, we're not conquerors. Secure the ships, treat prisoners fairly." The battle's tide had clearly turned. Admiral Johnson opened a communication channel to all Kraxan vessels. "This is Admiral Johnson of Earth's Third Fleet. Your flagship is destroyed. Your colonies are liberated. Surrender now, and you will be treated according to the laws of war." One by one, Kraxan ships began signaling surrender. Weapons powered down. Shields dropped. The mighty empire that had terrorized the sector was broken. Captain Bob Taylor's reconnaissance team detected escape pods throughout the battle zone. "Admiral, we've got thousands of Kraxan crew in the water." "Rescue operations. All ships," Johnson ordered. "We're not like them. We save lives when we can." The final holdouts fought to the bitter end. The cruiser Yorktown, under Commander Susan Reed, faced 3 damaged Kraxan destroyers. They attacked with suicidal fury, but Reed's crew was ready. Coordinated torpedoes spread. Reed commanded, "End this clean." The torpedoes found their marks. The last Kraxan warships broke apart, their crews joining the escape pods drifting through space. 6 hours after the final battle began, it was over. The Kraxan fleet that had terrorized Vellery space was destroyed or captured. 40 enemy ships surrendered. 20 were destroyed. The rest fled into deep space. Human casualties were lighter than expected. 2 destroyers lost, 1 cruiser severely damaged, 300 crew members killed or wounded. The Vellery losses in the occupation had been in the millions. "Signal all ships," Admiral Johnson commanded. "Stand down from battle stations. The Vellery are free." Across the system, celebrations began. On the liberated colonies, Vellery emerged from hiding to see their skies clear of enemy ships. The nightmare was over. Captain Emma Clark looked out at the battlefield. Debris and escape pods drifted like snow in space. "We did it," she said quietly. "We actually did it." The Deathworlders had kept their promise. The Vellery were free. Peace returned to Vellery space like dawn after a long night. The human fleet orbited Vellery Prime, while diplomats and leaders worked to rebuild what war had destroyed. The galaxy watched as 2 species, so different in nature, forged a new alliance. Ambassador Maria Garcia sat across from Elder Zixtald in the Vellery Council chambers. Between them lay the treaty that would change both civilizations forever. The document outlined trade agreements, mutual defense pacts, and cultural exchanges. "Your people saved us," the elder said, his large eyes reflecting deep emotion. "We can never repay this debt." "There is no debt," Garcia replied. "Friends help friends. That's what makes us different from the Kraxan." The signing ceremony was broadcast across human and Vellery space. Billions watched as the 2 leaders put their names to the historic agreement. The Vellery officially became humanity's first military allies. In orbit, the captured Kraxan commanders faced justice. Admiral Johnson presided over the War Crimes Tribunal. The evidence was overwhelming. Slave camps, mass executions, biological experiments. The Kraxan Empire would pay reparations for generations. Your empire built its power on the suffering of others, Johnson told the defeated admiral. That ends now. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from dozens of species gathered to witness humanity's emergence as a major power. The Altarian ambassadors spoke first. The humans have shown they will use their strength to protect the innocent. We formally recognize Earth as a protector species. One by one, other civilizations added their support. The vote was unanimous. Humanity's isolation was over. They were now guardians of the peaceful species. Captain John Davis received the Velari Star of Valor in a ceremony on the planet's surface. Thousands of Velari attended, many freed from the prison camps. Their gratitude was overwhelming. You answered our call when no one else would, Elder Zixtel said, placing the medal around Davis's neck. You are heroes to our people. The rebuilding began immediately. Human engineers worked alongside Velari scientists to repair damaged infrastructure. Marine medical units treated the wounded. Supply ships brought food to devastated colonies. Captain Emma Clark walked through a Velari market with her crew. Alien children ran up to them, no longer afraid. Vendors offered gifts, refusing payment. The fearsome Deathworlders had become beloved protectors. Strange how things change, Clark mused. A month ago, half the galaxy feared us. Now they see us as heroes. Trade routes opened between Earth and Velari space. Human technology flowed one way, Velari art and culture the other. Young people from both species enrolled in exchange programs. The alliance grew stronger each day. Admiral Johnson's final log entry captured the mission's significance. Third Fleet Final Report. Mission complete. Velari space liberated. Kraxan threat neutralized. Casualties within acceptable parameters. Most significantly, humanity has found its purpose among the stars. We are no longer isolated observers. We are protectors, guardians of those who cannot defend themselves. Our evolution on a dangerous world gave us the strength to fight. Our choice to use that strength for justice defines who we are. The Deathworlders have become life-givers. End report. Back on Earth, celebrations continued for weeks. Children played with toy spaceships, pretending to be Admiral Johnson or Captain Clark. Military recruitment soared. Humanity had tasted purpose and wanted more. The Velari never forgot their rescue. In their schools, children learned about the day the humans came. Songs were written about the brave pilots and Marines. The battle became legend, growing with each telling. Other threatened species began reaching out to Earth. If the Kraxan Empire had terrorized them, perhaps the humans would help. Humanity's reputation spread across the galaxy. Dangerous but honorable, fierce but compassionate. Years later, historians would mark this as the moment everything changed. When humanity stopped watching the galaxy and started shaping it. When the Deathworlders became protectors. The alliance between Earth and Velari grew into something beautiful. Two species evolved so differently, united by shared values. The peaceful philosophers and the warrior protectors, building a better galaxy together. The stars no longer seemed cold and distant. They were full of friends to protect and tyrants to stop. Humanity had found its calling. The Deathworlders were home.